Hello, this is Aaron Eggman with Character Formation Coaching, a Christian mind-body transformational coaching technique. Today we're in session 8 of the Catalyze curriculum, talking about the character structure of attachment. So this book comes from People Fuel by John Townsend, and we've been going over this map numerous times. You have the fruit, the personal, people, and performance. This is our behaviors or what happens internally. And then if we only target change at fruit, we don't get lasting change. In order to get permanent transformational change, we need to target the source, and the source is, the root. And the root, we talked about aloneness. We talked about disconnection from God, people, and our spirit-led self. And when there is disconnection in our developmental stages, our character gets stunted in certain areas. And so our character gets stunted in areas of attachment, separation, integration, and adulthood. And in an atmosphere of grace, truth, and time, the ideal growing environment, or the soil, the good growing environment of good soil with the right nutrients, we grow strong character and our fruit improves. And so it's knowing about character structures really helps us to get correct diagnosis. Because if we just diagnose fruit issues, we don't actually know what's the root issues of what's going on. And so the character diagnosis is a much better way to diagnose, because if we misdiagnose, then we'll come up with different counteractive solutions that won't enact that transformational change. We'll feel better for a time, or we'll get some relief, but over time that issue will still be there that we'll have to address at some point if we're going to permanently and transformationally change the brain, rather than just simply fighting it all the time. So a correct diagnosis leads to solutions that work, and that would be a character diagnosis. And that's why it's so valuable for us to learn about character structures, because now we're empowered and in even finding out character deficiencies in us or in those that we disciple, it empowers us to have a path to change and a path to grow and to develop into the future. And so we're going to be talking about one of the four main ones, and this one is attachment. It's the ability to identify emotions and needs and to bring them into mutual needs-based relationships. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about attachment hiding patterns. And a hiding pattern is those things that we do instead of bringing our emotions and needs into relationship. And so you can see when we're unable to kind of identify what's happening inside our emotions, needs, our thoughts, body sensations, we're disconnected from them. And so by growing in the character structure of attachment, we grow in that ability to connect internally, to connect our emotions and our needs to people, and emotions and needs to God. 2 Corinthians 6:12-13 says, "We are not withholding our affection from you, but you are withholding yours from us. As a fair exchange, I speak to my children. Open wide your hearts also." This is Paul exhorting the Corinthian church to open wide their heart, just as they have been opening wide their heart, their affection, this deeper level of connection. Like, I yearn to connect with you guys at this deep level, just as we are being vulnerable and opening ourselves up to you. We beseech you to do the same. And that's exactly what attachment is about this mutual open-hearted stance towards one another, and ability to go to the deep places of who we are, and to connect at that deeper level. You know, when we're talking about attachment, we often talk about, let me talk about the church. So we often talk about doing church as family. Now, I think that's an amazing, revolutionary presentation of the church, of spiritual family as, and I see that as the primary metaphor of the church. And so, but saying we do church as family gives people an expectation that, when we come to this church, we expect, a depth of relating that's only available in the context of a family. But then they, sometimes they come to the church and they don't feel like they're getting that, or they don't feel like it's going to those depths of a level, because, and I think that has a lot to do with, sometimes we talk about just being together as being family, or playing board games together as family, or as, going and doing something together as family. And of course, all those things are a part of doing family, but family as God's best has to do with vulnerability and needs and emotions, and having needs and emotions in relationship with one another. And so when we don't have structures or contexts in our church for individuals to be able to get in touch with their emotions and their needs, and to bring them into relationship and get them met, and to go to those deeper places that they can't go to alone because they don't have the resources to, then we say family, and people have these expectations, but they kind of, they feel let down. Versus if we have developed this character structure of attachment, this deep level of relating, this heart to heart, open-hearted to open-hearted connecting, then I believe that that's going to really help people to kind of feel that connection, and feel that what they yearn for, and they don't know what they yearn for. They just know that there's a longing inside, and we'll meet those longings of the heart. We all desire to be fully known and fully loved, and it's through this level of attachment, connection, identifying emotions and needs, and bringing them into relationship, that deep level of connection and that longing of the heart gets met. That it's God's best for us to grow up like that. And if we grew up with a family like that, then we know how to do that level of relating in our normal life, with our friends and with people in our life, like select individual. I want to be talking about today just like who we go to that level of depth with, and who we don't, because we don't just vulnerably relate to every single person in our life. There's select relationships. I call them comrade relationships. And a comrade relationship is where we really go to these level of depths. And if we have if we have comrade relationships in our life, then we feel like these attachment needs are being met. And so, but if we don't have a family that is able to go to these deeper places, or they shy away from certain emotions, or they shy away from, or they, even have Christian ideas that, certain emotions are bad, like kind of the demonization of fear, then, we'll never have someone empathetically be with us when we feel fear. We won't have that perfect love meet us in that fear. Instead, it will be shut down, and we'll have to then deal with it on our own. And then so that place of that emotion of fear, that never has that connection. Or anger, sometimes in the church we think of anger as negative, rather than an emotion that signals something not right is happening, with an adaptive action tendency to push back, or to stop what they don't like. And so then individuals shut down anger. And so when a parent shuts down a certain emotion, then we don't know how to connect that part to relationship. We're disconnected in that emotion or in that need. Same thing with needs. When we have a certain need, and that need doesn't get met, we don't know how to reach it. We're disconnected from that need. And that's why this, learning about this, and then doing this in a group, and doing this in relationship with people, can help us to grow in our ability to connect with these emotions and needs, and then have them met, and have those longings that are deep inside met. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, let me read the deficit real quick first of the character structure of attachment. So those that are deficient in attachment do not appropriately desire needs-based connections, and are instead fine living with emotional isolation. being independent from others due to early experiences with attachment figures. They're more comfortable focusing on tasks and activities rather than vulnerable relating. They're easily overwhelmed by feelings, neediness, and closeness from others, or if you find it inside of themselves. And then due to that, they are disconnected from their needs and emotions. They don't feel like other individuals really want to go to these places of need inside, or these places of vulnerability inside with them. They have difficulties trusting others and rely on rationality and willpower when feeling emotions and needs, trying to will away the emotions or will away the needs. But then they'll also experience this deep sense of emptiness and aloneness. And so I broke it up into 3 levels. Level 1 this is now what you're able to do. So you're able to identify emotions and needs in self and has a desire to connect them to relationships. So this is the point where they're growing in awareness, and growing in the ability to name emotions and needs. I recommend getting an emotions chart and working to name both emotions and the associated body sensations with those emotions, as well as the 22 relational needs as found in the book People Fuel by John Townsend, to be able to identify needs, because they list all the needs out. And then in here we have desires to connect them. So maybe it hasn't cultivated the relationships or even started cultivating the relationships to have those needs met. That's where level 2 comes in. Level 2 starts developing mutual needs-based friendships and empathetic capacity for self and others. So this is somebody who's active in their growth in this area, someone who knows their needs and is beginning to try to build that life team. And a life team is 3 to 10 people that offer this level of depth in connection. So ability to name needs and bring needs into needs and emotions into relationship. It's those individuals who you trust, who you have in your life to bring that to. And we have level 3, which has an ongoing life team where needs are met and mutually shared, and able to attune and to contain other strong emotions. So attunement means is able to see emotions in others and able to communicate what those emotions are. The key to level 3 is that at level 3, you have your own needs being met, and thus you're much more able to, on a continual basis, attune, which means pull out and be with emotions, any emotions that people feel you're comfortable inside with those emotions. And because you're comforted in those emotions, you can then comfort others with those emotions. We comfort others with the same comfort that we ourselves receive from Christ. And so as we're comforted, we're then able to comfort others or pull out those emotions and be with people in those emotions that they're alone in by themselves, but now you're with them. And contain means the ability to allow strong emotions to be in the room, and you're still okay. You're okay with them. You're still drawing close to them. You don't need to distance or push away from the emotions. You can still welcome and accept. So in the presence of a strong emotion, welcoming and accepting it. And so, yeah, this is now you're able to offer this to other people, and you do offer it to other people at level 3. So it's important to understand the 8 C relationships. This is from the book People Fuel by Dr. Townsend. I added one. And so understanding these 8 relationships will help us understand which relationships I'm talking about being vulnerable with and those I'm not. So when I talk about a life team, I talk about coaches and comrades. So the other ones, close colleagues, casuals, care, chronics, contaminants, those are not life team members. Life team members are between 3 to 8 people in which you're able to bring your needs and emotions into that relationship. And so coaches are people often, they're experts in the field, or people who are specialized in, in this case, it'd be emotional intelligence, or therapists, life coaches, people who are able to really help you, or pastors, who are emotionally intelligent are able to be there with you. And so that in a coach relationship, you are like, the relationship is 100% about you, and the other person isn't getting any needs met in that relationship. It's more, they're there for you. They're there to help you process. They're there to help you work through your emotions and needs. And so often when we're first starting out in growing an attachment, having a coach or a therapist is amazing. I am even I would say I'm a strong level 3 in attachment. I still have a coach. I have actually 2 coaches, one individual coach and one group coach that I work with myself, because this getting in touch with my needs, bringing them into a relationship is so valuable and so important to me that I pay, I pay good chunks of money for each of my coaches. I pay $150 and $200 for my coaches. So that just shows you the value that I place on that. And I meet with them monthly now. I used to meet weekly in the earlier days, but now I feel like I've got a good balance now where I meet monthly with my coaches, with my coach group and my coach individual. And so they're part of my life team, as well as a team of comrades. And comrades are adult to adult relationships, peer-to-peer relationships, or friend-to-friend relationships that include mutual vulnerability, interdependent relationships where you need them and they need you. They meet your needs, you meet their needs. And so it's like, these are the relationships we're really looking for, with safe individuals who we can be fully transparent with, and they're going to be able to show us both grace and truth, as we talked about earlier, at the level that we've been talking about it with. And if you're in a group, a Catalyze group, then those in your group would be a comrade team, people who are working to go to these deep places with you. You can have a group. I have a group. Those are where a lot of my comrades are. I have some other comrades too, but my life team is in the group that I sought out. I know there's level 2 groups for Catalyze. That could be an option if you want to get that in your life. Or there's also, you can just build a team of people that you have that you can call, you can reach out to at any point in time. And these are the people who, when you're dealing with something, an ongoing life issue, you'll pick up the phone, call them, and they'll be with you. Close relationships these are like fun relationships. These are things that you do things together, go to the beach together, go camping together, play board games together, in my case, play Frisbee together. These are fun people that you just enjoy and have fun with, you can cut loose with. The issue is sometimes we think that level of like being together and doing things together counts for comrades, and that's not the case. That's why I've separated the two. We can do fun things with comrades, but a close stays a close if there's not that vulnerable relating involved in the relationship. If you're not able to share the deeper needs, and then it's a close relationship. But if it involves the deep connection, then it's comrade relationship. Colleagues are those that you work on teams with. Casuals are people, like, let's say, other church members or other people that you know, that are part of your life on hello, how you doing well, kind of that level of relating where you just see each other and you connect, you're amazing, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. Those are casuals. Care are individuals that you're pouring into as a coach. It's like, if you're a coach to an individual and the relationship is about them, then they're a care relationship. If it's not a mutual offering, it's care. And as we grow in attachment, we'll be able to grow in our capacity to have care relationships, or deep discipleship relationships would often be here in the early days of the discipleship, is you're there for them. And as they grow in maturity, and then the relationship can change. But in the early days, they're a kid in the faith, an infant in the faith, or a young adult in the faith. And at that point, you want to grow them up. And so those high-end attachment are able to have coaches and comrades, but also care relationships in their life. But we do want a strong the issue is sometimes people have so many care relationships in their life, but they have little to no comrade or coach relationships. And that's unhealthy, and there will be a relational deficit, and they won't be operating in their optimal potential. They'll be held back in certain areas if that's the case. We want to have comrades and coaches, and from that safe place of connection, then have care relationships. Chronics are those that they continue the same pattern, and even if you set healthy boundaries, they continue to boundary bust. So these are boundary busting individuals who don't change. It's like no matter what's offered or what's said, they stay in the same pattern, and they're not willing to do the work that they need in order to change. And so I recommend boundaries with these individuals, and with healthy boundaries, these individuals will often kind of drop out of your life because they're not willing. They don't want people who have boundaries because they don't want to change. They don't want to, you can let down boundaries as they grow and develop, but we have to be very careful of enabling people to stay chronics in our life. And often when we keep rescuing an individual from their character deficiency, then they stay chronics, and we enable them to stay chronic. So we have to have high character inside of self, and then those individuals will drop out of our life. And contaminants are those who are toxic to us. Those are individuals that are harmful for us to have in our life. Abusers or verbally, physically, and anyone, extreme boundary busters, people who totally disrespect boundaries. And these individuals, we need to get out of our life, or to have extreme healthy boundaries in which just extreme healthy boundaries, because contaminants cannot take that. They'll blow up, they'll get mad, they'll get frustrated. But as they do that, you just increase your boundaries. And if they don't change, which contaminants, they're not interested in changing. They want you to change, not them. They'll end up dropping out of your life. So extreme boundaries, healthy boundaries with these individuals, to keep the toxicity out. Because again, boundaries are about letting good things in and bad things out. And boundaries are about saying, defining who you are, what you allow to be said to you, what you allow to happen to you. We'll talk more about boundaries in the next session, so you can get that more there. But contaminants are destructive and for you. And so those individuals, you'll want to work to have this. So, all right, so let's talk about characterological hiding patterns. So characterological hiding patterns are when we so this is what a characterological hiding pattern is. We disconnect from our thoughts, emotions, and sensations when they are too overwhelming for us to feel and deal with alone. So when there is an emotion that's too much for us, we have to push it away. And when we push it away, then we have not dealt with it. And so we protect ourselves from that because we can't feel and deal with it. We are unable to, so we protect ourselves, and we adopt something to protect ourselves. And so hiding patterns are those things that we adopt to protect ourselves. But unfortunately, they pause our character development, and the brain uses strategies that worked in the past. In the present, a characterological hiding pattern that we developed as a child still operates in our life in the present moment, but even when the circumstances have changed. And so that's why it's like they pause our growth in the character, in our character development. So the way to forward and to let go of our adaptive, I call them adaptive because they served a good purpose. They helped us when we were younger, when we needed them. But by feeling and dealing in relationship, facing and feeling in relationship with God, people, and our spirit-led self, we're able to let go of our hiding patterns and grow in our character and our ability. In this case, it's bringing our needs and our emotions into a relationship. And so if we protect ourselves from if we don't bring our needs or emotions into relationship with comrades, 3 to 10 individuals, then we will have need of these defensive behaviors because we cannot feel and deal with it alone. And so our character development has been halted. And so here are some possibilities that you can do. Internal means what we do inside. Relational means what we do in relationships. So projection means you have the issue. So it's like we see others as needy, others as, and so although it's our emotion that's coming up or our need that's coming up, we put that need or that emotion on another person. Interjection is I am the problem. And so other people's issues we see as our issues. We internalize the toxicity of others. Splitting is where you'll never know this part of me. And so we never let anyone see or know our needs or our emotions. We disconnect from them. One part of us then holds those needs and those emotions, those overwhelming emotions. So only we experience that from time to time. At other times, we're disconnect, like we're okay. So splitting means part of us, an aspect of us experiences the deep aloneness, but other aspects of us don't. We're disconnected from it when maybe we feel happy and okay at certain times, but then other times we feel this deep level of aloneness. So perceived omnipotence is an individual who doesn't feel like they need others or they don't need relationships to talk to their needs or emotions with. They believe that they have no need. The valuation, wouldn't it be great? It wouldn't have been great anyway. So internally just is kind of like acts like they don't want it. They don't really want people to do that, to be there for them. To hostility, what a jerk he is, uses rage to keep needs disconnected from relationships. And so in this case, like the devaluation is, the relationship wouldn't have been that good. Hostility is like, man, I don't want it because that person is just, that person is blank, it's blame, like it's uses anger to keep people out. Or in this case, internal, so it has that internal voice of like, man, that person is just a jerk kind of thing. Relational, detached, I don't need anyone. Lives unaware of relational needs and connections. Avoidant, that person doesn't even know that they need attachment. They're just disconnected. Avoidant knows they have the need, but is afraid that when they bring their need into relationship, what will happen. So I desire relational intimacy, but I'm scared of what will happen if I get close. Caretaking, I will meet all your needs, but let's not talk about mine. So these are individuals who are constantly having lots of people in their life that they have lots of care relationships in their life, but very few coaches or comrades in their life. So they're always meeting everyone else's needs, but don't have anyone there on an adult to adult mutual vulnerability level, or very few. Hostile distancer, I will make you hate me, attacks people to keep them distant. In this case, it's like they do something in a relationship to make another person not like them so that they won't go towards their vulnerabilities or needs. Passive aggressive, sure, I'll do that. Sabotages relationships behind the scenes. Antisocial, you deserve what you get. Sees having needs as weak and exploits weakness. Statements like you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink, or those kind of like those blame statements often can indicate this, or anytime taking advantage of weakness could be this. Addictive and compulsive, substitutes feeling relational needs with activities or substances. So that just means instead of feeling needs, they use activities, or it can be something fun, or mindless, video games, activities, hobbies, Anything, even nowadays, the phone. So you start feeling an emotion or need, pick up your phone, and you disconnect from it. So screens, TV, movies, or even going out and doing good things can be to help us stay disconnected, or you're getting too much involved in work is another one. So I put together some Christian attachment deficient beliefs. So these are statements we hear in the church that I believe are attachment deficient. And so when statements like this are made, I think it indicates a deficiency in this character structure. God is all you need, and notice the all, and often, so, and also the connotation associated with that statement. People are meaning that you can bring all your emotions, all your needs to God and exclusively to God. So the all, the exclusivity, only, like go to God, go to God, go to God, without the value of the God, people, and internal. That's why that's deficient. Or if you have a close relationship with God, I won't need people. So the thing is they believe that the more mature you get, the less you have of needs, and the less you have of the need for intimacy and connection relationally. I think that's completely wrong. I think the more mature you are, the more you're in touch with your emotions, and the more that you have a desire to bring them into relationship with safe people and connect them to people. Why? Because that draws you close. That's what life is all about these deep level of connection. And without that, we're missing it. The third version of this statement is, I just need to give it to God. And if I just give it to God, then I'll be fine. And again, devaluing God's design. God's design was for child to be, like, for us to be born into a family and learn to grow in our character and our development through these deep level of connecting or relationships or attunement, right? Containment, all offered in the family of, in our family of origin, or as God's best should have been offered in our family of origin, but where our family of origin failed, the family of God can prevail and be there for us. And so here, that's the hope. That's what this is all about becoming a family of God that can do that. Second deficient belief is the more mature you are, the fewer needs or emotions you will have. Again, I believe it's the more mature you are, the more in touch you are with your needs and emotions you are, and the more that you pursue bringing them into relationship with God, people, and our spirit-led self. Christian deficient belief number 3, the answer is to stop thinking about yourself and to start thinking about others, or it is too introspective or too selfish to focus on getting your needs met. So yeah, when we counteractively, we say, okay, well, I'm going to stop thinking about my needs and I'm going to do this. That's a behavioral strategy. And if that's not what we still haven't gotten to the root. So this ignores getting to the root. Instead, we're supposed to just stop it and do something else. Again, a counteractive technique. Again, we might feel a little better. We're helping somebody out. We feel more fulfilled, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, we'll still have to circle back and to deal with it. Or in this case, it's too introspective or selfish to get needs met. You need to focus on others. Same concept, same belief. All right, well, thank you for joining me today. I hope this was helpful. And tune in next time for separation.